Welcome to Hometown Highlights, where we sit down with professionals, business owners, and community members. There are so many unique and incredible stories in the individuals and businesses that surround us every day. Here on Hometown Highlights, we bring attention to these stories and bring them to the spotlight. We also want to thank our sponsors at Hitchings Insurance. We appreciate their support in creating this podcast. Now, let's jump into the conversation. Hello and welcome to an episode of the Hometown Highlights podcast. I'm the co-host Dom Fry, here with my guest co-host for today, Brock Colman. Brock, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm doing real good.
Good. Very excited for today's interview. Special story, a lot of adversity that has faced him and his football team and their community. It's really cool just to be able to highlight that and kind of share those ins and outs that they have had over specifically the last 6 months, longer than 6 months, like 9 months or so. So let's welcome our guest, Mike Lento, head coach of the Lakota football team. Mike, how are you doing today?
Doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. Anytime we can talk about our kids, our community, our program, we take advantage of it. So thank you for the opportunity to be here to talk about our kids and what we're doing here at Lakota.
Yeah. So to get started, let's just ask a couple, icebreaker questions, get to know you a little bit better as an individual, Mike. First question, we spend a lot of time on our phones and technologies nowadays. And are you an iPhone user or an Android?
I have an iPhone. I don't know if I use it correctly or if it uses me, but I'm one of those guys that, I'm not old, but I'm not young, but I just, technology and me, I got to continue to learn how to adapt with it. And so it's been fun learning it, but like I said, I'm an iPhone. I'm not sure if I'm a user, but I have one.
You're an owner of an iPhone.
That's right.
All right, good to know. Are you more of a night person or a morning person?
Ooh, I tell you what, I don't know if I sleep or if I get up early or what the issue is, but work late at night, a lot of phone calls, got a lot of West Coast calls I got to jump on. So their calls are usually on their time. So our time, we're 3 or 4 hours behind. So it's 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock sometimes with conference calls. And then, I'm up in the morning about 5:30 doing some journaling, doing some reading, personal development. So I just try and sleep fast.
Make the most of those hours that you do sleep.
Right.
Instantly go in, isn't REM sleep? Is REM like the deepest level?
That's the deepest level, yeah.
You skip all just straight to it.
We try.
Try to it. Awesome. And the last question, as the icebreaker for you, is what is something that most people don't know about you, or maybe a fun fact about you, Mike?
So I joined 4-H just so I could be around my wife. Well, she's my wife currently, right? But she's my girlfriend in high school. And with as big and strong and tough as I am, my 4-H project was riding a cart behind a miniature horse.
That's good. I never knew that about you.
See, there you go.
The fun fact. That's awesome. Okay, well, let's jump in then to kind of the meat and potatoes, so to speak, of the episode. So first, I guess let's provide a little bit of a background. So you are, again, as mentioned, the head football coach at Lakota High School. How long have you been that head coach? And I guess, how long have you been a part of the Lakota community?
Yeah, so last year was, you got the school bell going off. Last year was my fifth year, my fifth full year. So this kind of goes, we're going into my sixth season now. Okay, so been there for 5 years and being involved with that. And what are outside of coaching, I guess, like how else are you involved with the Lakota community? So obviously I'm a business instructor here, leadership instructor here, and enjoy that process. The crazy part is I came into education because I seen a gap, right, of things we wanted to meet with our students. Just me as a coach. I seen our kids graduating and do I go to college? Do I not go to college? And like that last 2 weeks of, oh my gosh, I'm not sure what to do. And I said, well, how can we tie that in? So
for the past 4 years, up until this past year, I was the ISS district sub, so getting blessed to be asked to be the head football coach here after the interview process. I knew that in order to change the culture here, I had to be in the building. And so I was blessed with my business. I run out, outside there with my wife and all the opportunities I've had. I had the ability to come into the school system. And so about a year ago, I'd say it's about a year and a half ago, it's because it's been about a year process of planning and making it happen. I went to our principal and says, listen, I want to do more. I want to add more. There's some things that I see on a daily basis with my business relationships that I have with individuals in the community, along with what I'm doing in my business. And I want to offer more. And so kind of went that process, had to go through the routes I did, and found out that I have my undergrad in business administration, concentration in sports management. I got my master's in business administration, concentration in healthcare. And so it all linked up with my business background and what I've done, that I could go for a short amount of time to get certified as a teacher. So I'm kind of going through that process, got about a year and a half left to become a business instructor here. So I'm going to be teaching financial literacy. So I'm going to be bugging you guys to come in and talk to my group, my classes every once in a while, because I think I like to keep that relevant. And then I teach career college readiness. I have a leadership program, and then teen leadership as well.
Awesome. So you talked about, wanting to get involved with the school then, to kind of make an impact on the culture as far as the team. I guess, can you explain a little more in depth, like what do you mean by that? Like what does building a culture look like to you, but also like practically, what does that look like?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's building a culture is tough. However you look at it, it's not building the culture itself. It's getting the people that are all involved to buy in. Right. So I was the 5th coach in 6 years. All right. So, and so it was a revolving door. And what was it? I'm not sure what it was. I knew it was going to be tough. And also, I don't know if guys came in for the right reasons. Heck, I don't even know if I do a good job most of the times, kind of evolving, but you had to come in and pour love onto the kids. Knew that they were here instantly. I had the ability, and I told the school, no matter what I do, no matter what we do, we're going to be all in. And so we brought our kids here instantly. We had open enrolled them. Now, actually, where we built, it's kind of crazy. It's like almost a split school district, but where we built, we're like 10 feet into the Lakota school district line. So now we're no longer open enrolled. I actually just sent my first bill to the office to say, listen, take my kids off open enrollment that are actual Lakota students. So getting involved that way. And then, like I said, coming in and just pouring it in and pouring love. And then not just about football, right? It's about the entirety of our programs, right? How do we all work together? How do we get our coaches to work together? And then checking on the kids during their break. I mean, just all that behind the scenes stuff that takes away from the Friday Night Lights, right? Is what builds that program, and the consistency of that program, and the consistency of coaches. And for a while, it was tough for me to get, I would say, consistent quality coaches. I was blessed to have Shane Jacoby. He's been in the area for so many years, coaching so many different programs. I mean, he's in my eyes, he's legendary, right? If you talk to anybody about him, or he's been his past players, I mean, he's held in a high regard. And I knew that he was in the building when I applied for the job. And if he wouldn't have said, yes, I'll be on your staff, because I'm still learning how to be a head coach every day. I don't even know if I was ready to be a head coach when that opportunity came, 5 years ago. But I called him and said, listen, can you help guide me? Can you help this? And so, yeah, he was in. So then now, not that we just have one guy in the building with me, right? Because I got the opportunity to be ISS district sub. Now I've got 2 guys in the building, at Lakota. He was previously coaching at Macomb. So we went from having 0 coaches in the building to having 2 coaches in the building instantly, right? And so just to kind of get to know the kids on a daily basis, high five, smiles, and things, of that nature, I think is key in any program. Like I said, I'm going to take a moment here and can't thank Shane enough, because Shane's finally kind of stepping away. I kicked him out. I said, listen, if I wouldn't have kicked him out, I don't think he'd been done. So he's going to take a year off. We'll see what he gets into, but blessed to have that aspect there. But I mean, like I said, and that's it. And we started doing, we started doing leadership breakfast. Something I do every Friday morning. Is we bring the kids in. It's open to anybody. It's open to the community. It's open to adults. It's listen, here's what we do. And so we do a leadership breakfast, and we just talk about leadership. We talk about commitment. We talk about adversity. We talk about all these things that life brings us in our as you start to adult or have more years on life, right? The challenges that we see on a daily basis. We just bring those stories in, bring guest speakers in. So we do that every Friday during football season. And then once football season is over, we do it once a month on a second or a first, Friday, depending on when it falls when we're here at school. So, I mean, and like I said, doing that stuff, building with our entire athletic program, to know that we're here for each other, we're here to do it together. And I think that's important at any school, but I think it's most important at smaller schools.
Hmm. That's cool. That's cool the way that, you stepped in and you said that, wanted to build that consistency, a lot of change year after year. And that was a goal of yours, build that culture through consistency. And one of the very first things you said as well is just pouring love on kids and letting them know that they, whether they are athletes, or not athletes, and providing, you said that leadership, it's really cool the Friday mornings to have that for your athletes, but also for any other students or anybody involved in the community.
Absolutely.
That's cool. You have any questions at the moment, Brock?
No, one thing I wanted to point out was when I heard about the leadership breakfast that you put on, it was a great idea. Man, what those kids can get out of those breakfasts and what you teach, it's more than football. Like you said, culture. It's definitely creating a culture there.
Absolutely.
That's cool. So then let's, we kind of transition then to, more recently. So you're coming up into your 5th year at Lakota, starting the fall 21 season. At the very beginning of the season, coming into the school year, football season, what were your goals? What was the hopes? What was kind of the thought process going into this football season at the very beginning?
Oh man, I guess to have obviously a normal year. And I'll touch base on it here in a minute, but obviously, we knew we had a lot of guys coming back as far as a senior group. It was actually these kids were 8th graders, and I went to them as a junior high program, watched what they were doing, and I stood in front of them after their last game, and I said, if you guys stay, I will stay. I will not bail on you like any other coaches bailed on this program. If you stay, I will stay. Because in the past, we've had a lot of individuals transfer out of Lakota to go somewhere else to play football or look at other sports. Do I blame them? No. I mean, obviously, if you're looking at the program and with the shape of our programs where they were at, I don't blame them. But at the same time, I wanted them to know, like, if they stay and you don't look to go elsewhere, we'll build it. It's going to take time. It's gonna be difficult. We're gonna have ups. We're gonna have some downs. All right, but I'm gonna stay with you. And so we were excited just for that fact that was their group, right? That was that senior group, and there was there was 12 of them, most seniors that I've had since I've been here, and they've seen some ups and some downs just kind of within the program and being behind it. I go back to my first year. It was awesome. I mean, you could have brought any coach, I think, that could have came in my first year and poured love, and those guys would have gone to bat for you. Great group of kids, hard workers, not overly talented whatsoever. They didn't question anything we asked them to do, and they just did it, and they responded. Unfortunately, that year we had a kid break his leg in the second game, so huge tragedy there. It was crazy. We were up 17-0, and then we ended up losing 18-17 to Gibsonburg, and that's when Gibsonburg was on their runs of 10-0, 10-0, 10-0. And we were, and so we ended up having a successful season, but just couldn't get past those little adversities that we had. Coming into the next year, one of my coaches had a mild heart attack. Then you come into the next season. I had a coach lose his son, gets a phone call week 1, game 1, as I'm walking up to set the headsets in, and just got a phone call that he had lost his son. In that same game, our quarterback breaks his thumb on his throwing hand, dislocates it. And then our backup quarterback in the same game, 8 minutes later, gets rolled up on and explodes his ankle. And so now we're left with like no quarterbacks. And so I had to adjust an entire offense that next week and end up having this direct snap diamond offense, which I'm glad we came up with it because I still use it to this day. And then obviously we had COVID a couple years ago, right? And when COVID happened, I mean, that's not a normal year. I mean, we're going up to like July 31st. Are we going to have a season? Are we not going to have a season? Or we get the phone call that we're in. And so now we're scrambling around to get the guys and, put everything together. Basically no scrimmages, going to a game. You're playing a 6-game season. Everybody makes the playoffs, trying to get games in just so you can have your seniors, have the year that they can possibly have. And then we go into this year. So we're looking for a normal year this year. We're looking, I'm thinking, man, let's go. This is it. And proud of our kids, because if it wasn't for our kids being as resilient that they were, they made this year as normal as it possibly could have been. In that aspect.
Yeah. That's a lot of on the field adversity. You mentioned like prior to this year and a lot of injuries and, not having quarterback, and a lot of changes on the field, and obviously things being much different with this season. And unfortunately it was very early on when Coach Otney tragically passed away in a car accident. And that was after a game, correct? Like on a Friday night?
That was after a game. And it's crazy because that's about 150 yards from where I'm building. And so, yeah, it was after a game. I'll never forget. I'll just segue into it. I'll never forget it because I had gotten a call on the way home asking if everything was all right. And I'm like, yeah, why? They go, well, there's an accident. And they thought it could have been a Lakota coach. And I'm like, oh, no. So I instantly started calling all my coaches. And the only person that didn't answer was Coach Otney. And it's not uncommon for him to not answer when he was with his family because, I should take, more lessons, from John that way is when he was with his family, he's with his family. And so it wasn't uncommon for him to answer. I had pulled into my in-laws where I was staying at, I was my wife and I, as we were building our house, and like life light went over. And like you instantly get sick, okay, about is it a kid? Even here at school, you'll hear sirens after school and like, oh my gosh, you kind of get that, that fatherly, parent like sense of like, oh, hope nothing went wrong. And then, like I said, it was 1:17 in the morning. I got a phone call from his wife, and he had tragically passed in a tragic car accident, head-on collision. And it was crazy, because you talk about building staffs, and I had been talking with him for 5 years. Come on, staff, because he's a quality individual, knows the game, and finally, got him over. And so to have that happen week 2. And the instant impact of what John made on our kids, it showed through our kids' faces, and the way that all of our kids, the way that they responded, or when they heard the news, when they went to the funeral home to be with his wife and his kids and the family and things of that nature. But that was probably one of the toughest things I had to do. Now, when I was in college, we lost when I was in high school, we lost a student tragically. I was a sophomore. This student happened to be a senior. And then when I was in college, we lost a college teammate. I'll never forget the phone call when my dad said, listen, you're not going to want to do this, but I think some of your guys have been in a car accident. It's not good. Can you run up to St. V's? Because none of them had any ID on them. And the state trooper called me knowing that you were a player, so tough deal there. So I think all those things kind of, in a way, not prepared me, because nothing prepares you what we went through, but also, I had to think on my toes because, from 1:17 in the morning, and you guys know, we're just talking about phones. This is going to hit the news. This is going to hit social media. This is going to, and I'm trying to call our administration. And it's, 2:00 in the morning, who's up? And I'm just trying to get what do I do? Do I get grief counselor? There's no plan here. Right. and he didn't get nothing. So I had texted all my coaches that night and said, listen, early in the morning, I need you guys at the office at 7, not 7:30. Because we got to discuss things. And none of those guys knew. None of those guys heard anything. I didn't tell them through a text. I didn't want them to tell them through a text. They all thought we were there to, talk about the game. And we had just lost to a very good Elmwood team, wanted some adjustments. And I got them all in there. And I said, guys, the kids are coming in. I don't know what to do. Again, I leaned on Shane here for his expertise a little bit and his wisdom of like, how do we handle this? Because I don't want do we tell them? Do we not tell them? Do we go to our JV game? What's the deal? But guys, I told him John passed, and then it was like silence for 5 minutes, and then, like I said, God bless Shane, because he was like, okay, guys, we got to go to work. Okay. We got to figure this out, go to work. And he says, Mike, you need to go out and talk to the bus driver, tell the bus driver we may not be going. All right. And so I went out to the bus driver, said, listen, we may not be going. I don't know if you've heard. She's like, no. So I let her know what had happened. And I said, I'm going to talk to our kids. I'm going to let our kids make the decision. And then we're going to go from there. So all the kids had gotten there. And I honestly, I didn't even at that point, we got parent square, we got emails. I didn't tell any of the parents because I didn't want the parents to tell the kids. I wanted it to come from us as a staff first, just for that trust factor, right? We spend so much time to build relationships with our kids, and I wanted them to trust us and lean on us. And I mean, there's no easy way to say it. I'm breaking up thinking about it now is like, you're standing in a bunch of 45 young men who probably never faced strategy in their lives, maybe one or two of them, but have never experienced that. They had just talked to coach 8 hours before, and so just telling them, and they broke down. I mean, they broke, which they should have, right? And I was proud to see it, but also we got to, hey guys, what do you guys want to do? We got a JV game. What do you want to do? And instantly, man, I tell you what, if it wasn't for our young guys who are going to lead our program here in the next couple of years, I don't know where we would have gone, because our young men were like, listen, coach, we want us to play. They made that decision. It wasn't the coaches. It wasn't our seniors. It was our young guys. Our young guys said, let's go. And so they decided to go. We decided to go back to work and watch film and stuff. And, and again, that whole process there, that whole next week, it was crazy. Our kids were ready to play, focused. It was their release. And then on Thursday, we get the phone call that Northwood canceled on us because they had, contact tracing. And I'm like, I went to our AD. I go, you got to find us a game. I don't care who it is. I don't care if we call the Cleveland Browns. Our kids need to play. Our kids need to play. We have to play. They got to get this out. I go, I have to coach. I go, we got to go. This is what we're doing. And so we were able to find a game and play. So it was proud of our kids. I mean, it really is because, I guess I can just kind of segue into it. If you want me to, if you've got questions, I can just segue into our other situation that we had.
What? Go ahead.
You can go first.
I just want to talk about the feeling of your program starting the tragedies and the support you've seen. It's got to be, you talk about your administration, you talk about your coaches and your kids, but from the community had to rally around you in this time of need and come together.
Oh, unbelievable. Just and not just like our community, but like, the community, like just the entire community, the football community, the fraternity of coaches, the fraternity of fans, the fraternity of just, people that there are things I got 2 footballs back here. I got one out to these, right? I mean, the day after Carrie sends a football signed by their captains, like we're there, a bunch of kids reached out, and then our parents were fantastic. Our parents were great. Our parents they wanted a release. And I'll tell you what, just having, again, it's a process to gain trust, right? But just having the trust of our community, having the trust of our administration, have the trust that they have in us coaches, right? With the program, you saw it because I'm like, there's some things you just don't have the answers for. And you say, run with it. You guys want to put ribbons on the fence and just have people come in. You guys want to buy t-shirts and just go. And everything was done in the way it needed to be done with heart with integrity, with ethics, reaching out to the family. And so it was great to see our kids, or great to have our kids see the response of a community when you're doing great things all the time.
Yeah, that's cool to hear, how the community, and like you said, not even just the Lakota community, even the football community, just completely wrap their arms around you, especially with everything you were going on. And for me, Mike, when you tell about your experience and the story, like, I think, like, in your case, like, personally, there's so much going on. You're losing a friend, you're losing, obviously an assistant coach, someone that you worked alongside. And then to think, like, yeah, you're the one, which I think is commendable, that you said you want to be the one to break the news. Like, you want your team to be able to lean into you and the other coaching staff during this time. But also how difficult that had to be for you to, no one ever wants to give bad news, but then especially when we're talking about, a room full of a bunch of young men, and just how difficult that had to be for you personally, but then also, as a coach and a leader of these men as well. But then also really cool to hear you say, the young men, they stepped up and they said, that we want to play for, Coach Otney, we want to go out there and do this. And, and obviously they would have the right to react in any way that they wanted to, but that was how they responded to it. They responded to it with, here's adversity. We've had football adversity before, but this is adversity like we've never faced before, and let's face it forward, and try to play football and try to lead the team and rally around the community.
Yeah, no, there was good that came from this. And with every tragedy, there's got to be good that finds its way through this, and light shine through, through what we went through in that time.
Yep. So then, as you were alluding to then earlier, it wasn't even 3 weeks later, very short period of time, you lose another assistant coach then, Coach Adam Good. That's just a second sucker punch. How did the team react to obviously two very tragic events in such a short period of time? Like, did they respond in the exact same way, or did that shake them up?
Yeah, it was. It's crazy. So Coach Good had passed 18 days after John had passed, and actually it was 2 weeks after John had passed. Like, Coach Good kind of like went away from our program, right? So he got ill, and so he just kind of just wasn't there. And kids kept asking him, so listen, well, he's ill. He's ill. Can't be around. And I'll never forget it. I was in this chair, and we just got done watching film. Well, and kids were leaving, and Adam's dad called me and he says, Mike, are you sitting down? And I'm like, and it was just went silent. And he goes, I go, you never want to hear, are you sitting down, and with what he's been going through? And I go, and again, my exact words was to him was I went right to, Mr. Good, I pray for you. I don't have the words. That was the second son he had buried in the last 2 years, so I instantly went to that and just, be there as a friend, be there as a friend of his sons, for them. And then instantly it's like, how in the heck are we going to do this again? And so I made the decision that, listen, let's just practice. So I went and told our coaches again. And I said, Coach, I think we should need to practice. And then after practice, we'll tell the kids, we got a task at hand, and I guess, we got to move through this, and that's kind of like it was crazy. And I'll segue into like our shirts and that we had made during the season. And I had no idea the meeting would come, as full circle as it did, unfortunately. And so we went and had practice, and we got the kids down and brought them in like I normally do after practice. And just, again, guys, I don't know even what to say. I don't even have any emotion right now. But we just lost a second coach. Coach Good passed at about 2:00 today. And, you want to take it. And people ask it, like, well, what's it like? What was it like telling the kids? What was it like? And I said, the easiest way I can describe it is taking an aluminum baseball bat and swinging it as hard as you can at their stomachs, and that's what their faces look like. I mean, as hard as you can, giving it to Albert Pujols or whoever you want to do it, and you swing as hard at their gut, boom, and air, oxygen, just lost, pale. What do you do? So like I said, 2 weeks prior, this is the first time that they've experienced a tragedy of that nature, right? Something to be ripped off. And then now within 2 weeks, you just did it again. And it was kind of like, and at that point it was like numb, again, our community, people wrapped their arms around us. Our parents was great. Our educators here were awesome. Our teachers were awesome for our kids. Especially with the young guys, that was tough because Coach Good ran our JV program and did a great job with our JV program. He had a desire to be a head coach, and we were grooming him as much as we could to hopefully have that opportunity at a program someday. I mean, he'd come in and I say everybody needs to get Coach Good on their program because he'd always be, do you need anything else before I go? Do you need anything else before I go? And just the nature of like the kids got to see the game in a different, I want to use the term soft side, but like he brought a soft side to the game, meaning knowledge and just that care and that comfort. And, I think I heard him yell twice in his 2 years here. And, so having him there and having him as a backbone, our younger guys took that one hard, and we're going to do some things for them. There hasn't been a ceremony for him yet. Decided not to do that. So that was tough for our kids. Our kids just recently came to me and says, Coach, they were struggling with it. And I go up, I've been struggling with it too. And so we had a great conversation about 4 or 5 weeks ago, just between myself and our players, just to have that conversation, to have that in-depth, it has been amazing. And it just, it's a test, of our kids and the parents they have and the coaches we have around them and all their programs, and to see them to develop to who they are is absolutely amazing. And again, like I said, Carey, they were the first ones to send another football and reach out. They won the state championship this year, and I got the opportunity to get an award down at the state clinic. And I told, when I got to speak, I said, I don't think it was unparalleled that they won a state championship. They were the first two, the first guys to reach out for us, to be there. It showed their character of their coaches, of their players. I mean, Coach Donaldson stopped over that Tuesday, and he walked in my room, and I've met him twice, and he just gave me a big hug, and he's like, I couldn't call, I couldn't send a letter. He's like, I just had to come see you. He goes, I don't even know, he's like, this is like a movie, man. He's like, I don't know anybody, any program that has dealt with this, and so, but so it was just, again, like I said, nice to have that support and stuff. But then, again, it's time to go battle, and our kids handled it the best way they could have. And I was very, very, very proud of them. Very proud of our kids, especially our young guys. I'm telling you, our young guys really stepped up, and our young guys really, did a great job. And I'm super excited to see, what they continue to do for our program. I think we're going to have to learn some of that all over again. And per se, but I'll give you this, and you guys can ask a couple questions. And people asked, well, how do you do that? How do you move forward? How do our kids move forward? And so I told our kids it's this, right? So if you look up all these, old parables and different things, and so on the back of our shirts this season, and I don't know, it kind of came on me. I'm a big guy of like getting some phrases and different things. And so on the back of our shirts this season, I had the bull doesn't care. The bull doesn't care, right? And it was kind of like a two-edged thing. Our thing was this is, nobody cares that we're Lakota, right? We're still the old same Lakota, and nobody cares we got 12 seniors coming back. And but we don't care if we see a state championship caliber team. We know we got to go do our job, right? We're done rolling over for people, and that was kind of like the thought process behind our model going in there. Because obviously, if you put a bull rider on a bull, he doesn't care how good that bull rider is. His job is to do what? Knock him off. right? So the bull doesn't care how many world titles he's won. His job is to knock them off. Well, then, you go through what we've gone through. And I kind of told him this, I go, it's kind of crazy. We start looking at our shirts, guys. And they said, but, you look at the bull bison, right? Out in Colorado, out in Minnesota, the big old bull bison. I go, that bull sees a storm coming. And instead of sitting there and getting cold, right? So if you look at a cow, a normal cow will just kind of sit and shiver, and it'll wait for the storm to pass. That bull bison doesn't. The storm's going to happen no matter what. So what we got to do is we got to move forward inch by inch, moment by moment, day by day, game by game. We just got to move forward. It doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. It doesn't mean we're not going to go through the same storm. It doesn't mean we're going to hit different, weather, that is going to be raining hard. It's going to be more windy, through that storm at different points. It's going to happen. But we can either sit and allow it to happen, or we can figure out how to move forward. And I go, maybe that was the saying on our shirt. And that's all we did. We just kind of moved and did and went. And I'm thankful. I think that we were in football season. If we weren't in football season, I don't know how we would have handled it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool to hear that story, with the shirt. And and just being able to look back and, that motto from the very beginning, and then obviously how that ended up playing a much bigger role and meaning much more than what you could have ever attended it at the very beginning of the season. Obviously just thinking from a football perspective, I'm sure for the most part with that initial saying, and then obviously it becoming what it was. And again, it's really cool just how you say that the young men, just the way that they stepped up and handled it. And I can't even imagine or wrap my mind around the second time. It would almost be like, is this like, are you serious? Like what are again, just I'm sure, hairpin being able to hear being dropped in that room, and just everyone being so quiet. Just so much to take in, again, for the coaches, for the athletes, for everybody involved. Just respect to you for leading the team and the way the team has handled it. So as far as football wise, then how did the season end up? Because this is very early in the season. You have these two very tragic passing away. How did the season end? Was it, again, like you said, I think it's cool that you said the football season ended up being a good thing, that you were in football season to be able to rally together. But you can kind of explain on the field and off the field, what did the rest of the season look like?
Yeah, no, we did well. Our young guys, I call them our next guys up, our JV guys, they went 7-1. Had lost their long game by 2 points. So they were in there the thick of it for that one too. But and then our varsity program and all of our guys, have a part of our season, right? But our varsity football program, we went 7-3. It's the first 7-1 season in like 17 years. It's first time in school history that we earned a playoff spot. So that was pretty neat. We got second in the league behind a powerhouse of Hopewell, and our kids played their tails off in that game. I think that game was 21-3. I think if we get a first down, going into that third quarter, I think we could have potentially been a different site. But hey, the game doesn't go that way. It's a game of inches. When we miss it by just a little bit. And like I said, our kids were awesome. They were resilient. They busted their tails. They worked hard every day in practice, and just again, even with the media attention and the way that they got it from and handled it, because it's been. I don't think Lakota's probably ever had this much media attention. How it came, right? Our kids handled it like men, and it was unbelievable. To hear them be interviewed, to hear them be responsive to their coaches' families, all right, to a way that they stepped up. John's wife still teaches. She teaches at Vanguard. So my players will come in all the time and say, hey, coach, we saw Sarah today. So they go in and check. I'm going to get choked up because they go in and they check on her, and that's a man thing to do. You know what I mean? And so that came from obviously their parents, but I'd like to say say it came from our coaching staff, as well. And so it's just neat to see that the success that they had. But I also, I'll say this, and it wasn't up to probably about 5 weeks ago that, to sit back and really realize, all that good stuff. Like I said, 7-3, first earned playoffs. I think we played a heck of a game against Eastwood, who's been a powerhouse for years. Beat Gibsonburg not in overtime. We went for 2, so we didn't go into overtime and got it. And our kids made that decision, and beat Gibsonburg for the first time. And I want to say in 19 years or something like that. First time our kids in overtime, we beat Calvert. Lakota's never beat Calvert in football, so again, so many firsts. It was awesome, but I will say this, as much fun as we had with those, I don't know if our kids really got to enjoy winning the way winning is supposed to be won. And you look back and you go, because some talking to the kids, and I've talked with a couple of our guys, are like, coach, we're not sure if we're going to come out for football this year. I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, coach, we're not really sure if we had fun. I'm like, we had fun, we won. And, I had to go and reflect on it because, I had to lean on a couple of my pastors and different things of just, get out of my own thoughts. Cause you start going, football is not there in the morning. You're like, man, like you don't go in your head alone because you're going to kick your butt every single time. Right. And so I'm man enough to say, listen, I had to go talk to somebody because the same thing. And I go, so if you felt an ounce the way I felt in December and January, then I understand where you're at. So I didn't bust their chops. I didn't go, well, you're not playing. I'm like, I understand. And I can understand if you guys don't want to come out. I hope you guys do. I think we'll be a better team. And they're like, but somebody's like, wait, Lakota's really never won. Lakota's never gone to the playoffs. And how is that not fun? I think it got to the point for us where we had self-proclaimed pressure, nobody but pressure on us. But I think each individual had a little bit of pressure on themselves. We didn't do it as coaches, right? We wanted to play in honor of our coaches. We didn't want to play for our coaches, right? I kept telling the kids that play in honor for the coaches, right? How would they play the game? How would they respond to the game? Don't go play for them, because if you play for them, you're going to do it for the wrong reasons, right? But play in honor for them. But I still think, we're human beings. We're men. We got egos. We're going to go play for coach. And we're going to win for coach. And so I think we all wore that, whether we said it or not, we all wore it. And when that happens is you get more relieved that you didn't lose than you enjoyed winning. And I think our kids went through that. I really don't know if our kids got to enjoy the fruits of their labors, of their hard work, of their I don't want to say mental toughness, because we cried, we did different things, but like to continue to push through, right? Because I don't want to put that mental toughness out. They bottled it all in, because we didn't, right? We talked about it a lot. We brought people in to talk to us, and so, but like to continue to push through the way they did was unbelievable. And then, like I said, you start looking at it, it's like, I don't know how much I enjoyed winning. I think I got more relieved that we didn't lose, right? Because we can't let people down. Like, eyes are kind of on us now, and not on us of like, oh, wow, they're doing well. And we were doing well. And I think people were watching like, wow, they're doing well. But on the backpacks that we were carrying, right? The guys that strapped up every Friday night and our shoulder pads, it was, we got to win for coach. We got to win for the family. We got to, and do I think they didn't enjoy completely? No, I think we enjoyed moments. I think we really do enjoy this season. But when you look at it as a whole, I don't know if our athletes, our men, got to enjoy the way that they should have. Meaning, you've been on a program that I think this was our 8th winningest season in school history. First time, like I said, earned playoffs, 7 wins in the 17 years. Like you guys did everything you said and worked to do, right? But yes, we had these 2 tragedies, and so the philosophy of the season shifted. And so it was, like I said, it's very successful, very grateful. very proud of our young men, because I'll tell you this, I'll give you this one. And I don't know if I've told these guys enough about it, but I appreciate all of our players, from our young guys to our older guys, so much, not as a coach, but as a dad. Because there's a period of time there where my sons were resented football. They were scared of football. They didn't want dad to go coach because they didn't know if dad was going to come home. In their heads, that's what they associated football with death. And, so as a dad, if our players didn't step up and did what they did this season and fight and claw and show up in big moments, I don't know if my kids would have really enjoyed the game. I think they could have, by the end of the season, my kids were sold at football. They were ready to be the ball boys again. They were on the sidelines again. But for a brief 4 or 5 weeks, my boys they were scared of the game because they didn't know if dad was going to come home, And if it wasn't for our players, as a father, I'm so appreciative of them, because that was a big task. I'm sitting here talking about, that was a big task on those young men. Those 14, 15, and 16 and 17-year-old boys. That was a big task for them to hold a community together. It was what they did, So super proud of them. I'll talk about those guys all day, and start with our young guys, man. If from day one of our young guys, our JV guys didn't go, hey, we're going to go play, we could be having a whole different conversation. But because our young guys did, it propelled us, and it just makes me proud of our program, our coaches, because that's where it comes from. That resiliency and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I had a great year. Really, we did. Very, very, very happy with the support we've got from our administration and everybody out there, and just so happy for our kids. Because, I joke about this. We're no longer a game you can circle as a win, on your schedule. We're no longer the team you want to schedule for the homecoming games, and so Brock's laughing because he knows.
I know. Well, and throughout knowing what little I knew about your program, the leadership breakfast and the culture that you were building, I heard that news, and I remember I actually went out to get the paper to check the football scores on Saturday morning. I got a call and says, hey, you never believe what happened. Oh, we're crushed. I heard the news, and I remember thinking to myself, of any program, there's things put in place already that are going to help them conquer this. They're going to get through this. I don't know how, but they rely on their faith, their culture, and rely on their leaders, and they'll get through it. And, obviously you didn't know, nobody knew that when those things were put in place at the beginning, that you're going to really have to rely on these things. But, you use the word blessed. Your team, your community have been blessed to have those things in place.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Yep, absolutely.
Yep. No, that's cool to hear you say, Brock. And yeah, I just thought similar. I was thinking that same process as Brock was saying, even as you were mentioning about the winning aspect, being different, kind of taken away from them. And it's sad, but it makes sense, and obviously it was just a much different season. And like you said, the self pressure that, you may put on yourself as well. But also, just the reality for those kids and for those coaches to also realize it is bigger than football, and that's where those leadership meetings, that's where those types of things come into play as well. They're playing football is awesome. It's a fun game, winning is obviously more fun than losing. But at the end of the day, winning potentially doesn't have the sweetness that it did before, because not only are you emotionally dealing with, the loss, but also just realizing at the end of the day, this is a game, and, realizing the community is there to support you. And again, I just keep coming back. I think it's cool that you said that the positive aspect of this actually happening during the football season, and the way that, the team, the coaches, athletes, everybody around was able to rally together, and able to just, process this together and use football, just to bring that community together during such a difficult time. So Mike, we really appreciate your vulnerability, appreciate you opening up and just kind of sharing, from your perspective in the season and such. We wish you and Lakota football nothing but the best, moving forward, and hope the 2020 2 season, coming up this fall, goes well as you continue to, ride through adversity. There's always going to be some type of adversity, the ups and downs. We just rooting for you. Before we wrap up the podcast, though, any other questions or anything else you'd like to ask, Brock?
No, it's always good talking to you, Mike. Thank you for sharing your time.
Absolutely, guys. Listen, I guess, like I said, I'll anytime I get a chance to talk about our program, our kids, we're going to take that opportunity because they're working hard. Our coaches work hard. Blessed with the coaches staff that we've been able to put together, coaches that have stepped in, add some new coaches to our program this year. And it's because of what our kids have done, right? Guys from the outside have watched and they want to be a part of what we're doing and what we're building. So absolutely blessed that way. And like I said, just love the opportunity to be able to talk about our guys and love. I've been kind of going back and watching some of your podcasts. You do a great job, putting these together and highlighting our Northwest Ohio community at many levels. So kudos to you for the awareness you bring to our local communities and our local kids and athletes.
Appreciate that, Mike. Appreciate it. Appreciate you and everything that you are doing for that community over there. So thanks again for your time. And this has been a really eye-opening, very good interview. I really appreciate your vulnerability.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Mike.
This has been the Hometown Highlights podcast. We hope you've enjoyed this conversation. For similar interviews, you can subscribe to the podcast. Thanks again to our sponsors at Hitchings Insurance. Thanks for your time, and we look forward to the next show.